Hey, it's been a while since a video has last been posted. At least it feels that way in my mind. I'd like to discuss something significant, very severe, that has everything to do with this life, but that may not seem very apparent. In fact, to the average person, I don't doubt that they wouldn't think of it at all. Or maybe I'm simply missing the point of what underhanded implication truly means, of what the underlying expectation truly stands for. That we would live in a game, that the point of the simulator being a definite is that we would live in a series of expectations that would be formed out of past cynicism. Since I first grew schizophrenia, which was when I was 17 years old, I thought to myself the same thing here and there, which was that it was a shady town that led me to my demise. But the way that I really put it together is that the cynicism in life is what created the diseases. And while to me it was in a very bare, simple way that I interpreted this statement, at least on the surface, really it had such a deep meaning. That almost of a deeper meaning. For schizophrenia to exist, to me it was the culmination of people's sarcastic hopes and grievings over my successes. And that would lead me to the or after I'd have a thought like that, all I could really think to myself is it's too shady. This perspective that the schizophrenia would be implanted by consensus that rings in the past and leads to the present is too shady. But since then, as of today, I've grown to accept. Instinctively, I've accepted. Permanently, I have accepted a lot of the ideas that could make this possible. And now that I get jolted awake in the morning here and there because my Samsung TV is poisoning me. It's the only conclusion I can come to. It's not that it's some sickness that's bred normally. I could start growing some kind of power because I literally feel like waves from the TV hurting me and poisoning me. And so I disconnect the TV. And so the poisoning, it mostly comes undone. it also doesn't help that there are people on the side that during the first, I'd say about third of my uh I'll just go ahead and call it a psychic trip at this point, but you could categorize it as a psychotic trip if you want, because I grew psychosis before, right? This started. It was to unlock the fragments of my mind. It was to enter the simulator with my mind. That happened when I was 22, nearing 23. And first third can maybe be excused, but the last 2/3, it is clear that there starts to be too much of a correlation with like me potentially being hurt or me being hurt, and sarcastic comments coming from the walls, but not literally the walls, like framings, pictures of beings that would move around, but not videos. Real live footage was and has been my undeniable yet saddening conclusion. The Samsung CEO he portrayed himself to be, the reason he gave me for poisoning me through the TV, he did not really give a good reason. Although, why would there be a good reason, right? Other than for the people deep down to be some sort of proponent to a Holocaust or madness. He just like insulted me. He just called me a fucking, I'll just say the word, he just called me a faggot. But it's clear that by his presence being there, and sometimes there's like things that happen where they get told things and then they react in certain ways, which adds to the realism of the affair. Just by his presence, it's clear that there was a correlation to me. And so I went through a few weeks where, beyond my computer being locked out of being used for no reason at all, meaning it shuts on, like it turns on, I mean. And yes, they forewarned me. They warned me in advance of this happening. The surroundings did. And now my computer has been locked out on me for about a month. After dealing with that, a few weeks of being continuously poisoned, it really got so bad that I saw my group house owner command for the water to be poisoned, which sounds so silly, but to me it doesn't sound so silly anymore, because not only did I drink one glass of water and proceed to puke my guts out because I drank one glass of water on their glass. And I had to jog my way to the bathroom because I was going to puke. But no, I've really started to think that the people are really the cause behind my problems. That they're a bit more than instinctively maniacal, that they're instinctively psychopathic. And I know it's a generalization. If you were going through this process where there just kept on being more and more affirmations that the whole of the world was on your back, what can you do but succumb to the realization? Open up the possibility for a life to exist after death once, okay? That creates an obligation. Or rather, it doesn't really. But that's the part I don't understand. That's one of the parts I don't understand is why people can't just live after that and then move on and finish their life scenario. But what if you want to keep on living is the first thing. And the second thing is, if a certain group of beings decide to keep on living after that, and I know it's a big topic after that, I'm just so used to it at this point because of everything I've perceived. I'm not willing to justify it or explain with that. Just assume it to be the truth or turn off the video or something if you don't like it. The topic of after that, if you are willing to keep on living as a group, then that means that is an open opportunity for other people to follow. If just one person does it, it is an open opportunity for others to say, hey, I should do it too. If you assume that time is manufactured, that we are all living on the same, how do I put it? Time is relative. Time is a falsity, a lie. And why couldn't you start your life at 18, even though you already went through the first 17 years, maybe even some of the 18-year? But why couldn't you start your life then with the memories of everything that preceded? To me, it's not that outrageous of a theory anymore. It's quite normal. So therefore, you could set up a system where people would get revived as long as it would probably, at that point, it would probably be so perfected, it would be more than the person is the being. It would be, they literally completely are in every single way the being. It would be, I'm living my life at 18 and onward, and it's like nothing has changed. Because my process insists to me that a previous me, like, morphed into me, but I never noticed a single thing. Merged into me, but I did not ever notice it. The memory relies in the skull, okay? The memory relies here. If you have to overtake a body, the memory will not change. There might be an accommodation in terms of the consciousness, but the memory won't change. If that helps for it to make any sort of sense. But then again, I ask myself, what if everyone's just in on the ruse? What if everyone just is playing the game? There's a story that comes to mind. I just don't know how to explain it that well. Other than I was offered to play this game with a friend, so-called friend. We're chatting on Discord. And the truth is I did not own the game. I haven't owned the game until the Epic Game Store gave it out for free. That game was Grand Theft Auto 5. And before that, even though nothing entered my Steam account, I somehow managed to play this this paid game without paying a cent for it, without it being added to my account. But there was the implication that this guy paid something for it, yet it was never added to my account. So then I went and I played like maybe 25 minutes of multiplayer with him. And I never understood what that really meant, but I always played it off in my head. It just seemed just. But it wasn't quite that. Since I never did own the game, I didn't pirate it. There was no way for me to have it. I did not stream the game. I did not stream Grand Theft Auto 5. I just managed to play it regardless. And what I was explained in my trip, which unlocked the memory, is that it was an acknowledgement that I entered a different segment of reality. Why couldn't we right now just randomly be put in an entirely different reality that has the exact same contour, exact same people, the exact same world, except with a very different eventual outcome? I mean, isn't it quite clear, really, that seems like in a simulated game that we'd be playing, in a simulated environment, why wouldn't that be one of the proponents? It's for something like that's potentially happen. Couldn't that even like prevent murders upon certain people? Some guy is important, someone wants to kill him. He gets put in a different reality where everything looks the exact same, feels the exact same. He goes and he kills him, he spends time in jail, but he's in his own little space at that point. In our reality, or in my reality, I don't know which, no one notices. If you assume that our lives merely cost an expense of storage, and you assume that time has gone on so quick, so thoroughly for such a long time, that the underhanded implication would be real, and that I really have been haunted by my high school friends, by business leaders, and so on. It's the only thing that can make sense. Now, what else makes me say that? Other than my computer being locked out and, you know, fucking Bill Gates mocking it. Other than the friends of my life, it's like every single time, you know, it reminds me most of anything. This one friend, okay, me and him, we go way back. I decided to record podcast videos with this friend. And lately, it's been taught to me that my mind is really like fighting for me a lot more than I ever could have imagined, given I grew a mental illness. But really, it's fought for me a hell of a lot, probably even including that. We go way back, this friend of mine and me, and recorded some podcast episodes that some made it onto this channel, but they were shoddily edited, to say the least. And you know, not only is it that past the first episode, that every single time that I'd get in a call with this guy and we'd record a weekly podcast, it's like I felt worse mentally than the week prior, and then the next time I felt worse mentally than the week prior, the next time worse mentally than the week prior. It culminated in a sort of disaster by the last episode that we did together, which was maybe like the 7th. And it just made me think about the possibilities of an underhanded demands for other people to truly just be living on superiority's sake. We see jealousy in society every day, with an avenue where someone could manipulate another person. Why couldn't, for example, like Kanye, a very blatant example, he would call out Drake, like, and some other artists. He has done that. Then there's rap beefs and all that. And all I can think to myself is, with the possibility to manipulate other beings, with the possibility to suffocate other beings mentally so that they perform worse musically and so on, wouldn't the proponents, being some jealous rappers, hurting other fellow musicians, so that they can say that, hey, they fell off after all, because that becomes great on a diss track or something. Like the Jay-Z line, like, I don't know how it goes exactly, but the implication is that Nas had one classic, and it was Illmatic. Well, would Jay-Z have paid money to worsen Nas mentally in a background current? That's my point. Because it would have to run on the monetary perspective at that point. So this is something that I've so blatantly been going through. I mostly believe in it. I'd like to say that I don't as much as I'd like to say I do at this point. Because it's kind of a travesty. It is really a travesty upon us all. And all I can really say is even my face, bro. My face has gotten to be worse looking. Compared to some videos where I look like a fucking... I look like a baller. I look like a really good looking guy. I know most people really pay attention, actually. I'm getting caught up in my mom's perspective. We would say you're handsome regardless of how I fucking looked. So maybe you have noticed that. Because facial constriction, facial purity, I assumed used to be things that are extremely true. The shaping of the visage, the modifications you can make upon the face to turn an ugly person into an attractive person. And what does that amount to? Why were they ugly in the first place? Well, the ugliness of the politics. It's really that. Anyways, I've been through quite the mind trip. I wish people would take schizophrenia as an open-ended communication with either nefariousness or some sort of interesting proponent. I don't wish to immediately categorize it as demonic hallucinations or devilish hallucinations or evil hallucinations. I think there is a lot more meaning to it. But really, my meaning, started to link itself to the perspectives all around me all too significantly. And I can feel that I've protected myself against poisonings that are done through the telepathic waves. I can feel that I've been poisoned this whole video. And you know what I was talking about, sheltering yourself from the world. Maybe this is something that my mind has made clear and abundant that it wants to do for me. You know. But as far as what that means, I don't know. Thank you for watching. This video has some sort of meaning, but the truth is you cannot prove it, you can only discern it. You cannot prove it, you can only discern it. And I want to see the underhanded implication is not going to be posted to YouTube. Goodbye.